All right, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have a very special guest, Patrick Moreno from Lone Wolves. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
Awesome. Great to have you on the Blood Money podcast. So on the Blood Money podcast, as you viewers know, we've talked a lot about our system, our financial system, the fraud that we have acquiesced into, and frankly, all the things that they don't teach us in their desire to really have us be serfs, to be slaves. I mean, you know, those words are interchangeable, but the whole idea is that we have an elite that are ruling upon us, and we acquiesce into certain contracts, certain situations that we might not even be aware of that limit our rights, limit our powers, take us away from our what is the biblical explanation of what humans are supposed to be. So, Patrick, I've said a whole bunch. Why don't you get us right into what you do, what you've learned in your research, and the classes you teach?
Yeah, so I appreciate you having me, and thank you for that. So what I've done is, because of my experiences, because of things that I've gone through, just different trials and tribulations in the financial system, in the incarceration system, because that's where I really began to learn quickly when there were certain things that were missing, or certain aspects that you think that are just should be, when we're talking about oaths of office, when we're talking about, different things that you think that are in the rule book, that it should just be the way it is. However, there are exceptions to that rule, and those exceptions come because of emergency banking powers. We've been under emergency powers since 1933, actually since 1913, but it's carried on. 1933, it was invoked, and we are under two proclamations, one 2040 that still exists to this day. And that's what people don't know about, is the proclamation that exists that still extends these emergency powers, which means that everything else gets suspended. No other rules exist except those executive orders. And those executive orders that's all that's ever happened, because that's all that can happen while we're in a bankruptcy. So, I apologize about that camera move there.
Yeah,
I think it's better.
Well, we hardly see you, but
Yeah. Anyway, so we're in a bankruptcy, and we have been since 1933. And as a result of that bankruptcy, they put everything into trust. And it is the hands and the feet of the American people, literally, under UCC-1 in the state of Florida. There is a UCC-1 collateral statement that has that information on it. And it's for those people who want to be a part of an organization. If people feel like you don't belong, if you want to be a part of a gang or something, then you go join a gang. If you want to be a part of a membership of a gym, then you go join a gym. But you have to understand that when you walk in the gym, that you have to obey those gym rules. And those gym rules are not, they could be outside of everything else. That, like, you could say, okay, if I sign up for this gymnasium membership, then I agree that I am liable as a debtor for something else. You could have other things that are inherent in those contracts. We don't look at those contracts, and that's what does it. You guys can go look at all your contracts. You can look at your mortgages, and you can see that you agreed. You signed something that was money, and you didn't get a receipt for it, and you don't have any way to show what you were trying to do with it at the time. And so that's what I do. I help people that their heart was in the right place, because the things that happened to me personally, I was never doing any wrong. I promise you, like I you know what I mean? I've never hurt a soul in my life. And when I thought that somebody was hurt from something, I was like, oh my gosh. But my problems, and I want to be transparent about it. My situation comes from a background of substance abuse. I was like drinking way too much, and I was drinking too much because I couldn't figure out what was going on. I couldn't figure this stuff out. I honestly didn't know, like, things didn't mesh up. It's like 2 and 2 equals 7. What? How does that work? So I don't, when you don't, those things don't start to mesh up, you start to, try to do things to make up for it. And get away from that reality was my only way to do that, because it wasn't really a reality. Honestly, it's more like a simulation. And I say that because we can literally predict these events happening by what's called temporal viewing. And that temporal viewing is done by number sequencing. It's by calendrical number sequencing. But again, along that line, that's been changed too. So the calendars that they have several calendar systems that were going on, and none of them are honest. So when we start learning that, well, the history's been changed on it and everything that we're doing is an illusion. And I'll just give you an example. Look, October, right? Octo, that's what, 8? And why is that the 10th month?
Yeah.
It's the 8th number in the 10th month. November, same thing. December. So Deca is 10. It's labeled as the 12th month. It's because they moved the church, the Vatican turned back the time in March. They wanted people to be manifesting in the middle of winter when everything's dead. Have you ever tried to plant a seed in the middle of winter? Like go out in the snow and dig a hole and plant a seed and throw it in there? It doesn't work. It doesn't grow. So what's happened is in 1933, there was 2 parallel systems. There was a regular private civilians where Americans were the people that were born on the land here. And then there was another classification of 14th Amendment people who were state, basically they call them state nationals now. People think that they're state national. By their definition, they are. But when you look at the definition that's been changed and manipulated, they're not state nationals. You're volunteering to be federal citizens by doing that too. So there's a lot of things that you just need to know along the way so you don't volunteer to be the surety for a stranger. That's what this is all about. This is about stuff in biblical times, because I'll tell you this. I want everybody to note this and just go take a look at this at any given point in time. Go look at your birth certificate. Okay. You will see on your birth certificate that it is an all caps name. Okay. And nobody's arguing that. Okay. So it's an all caps name. That name was only created temporarily. It was supposed to look like, but it was temporary until you came back to claim your estate. But no one is taught this stuff. No one's taught that we have any sort of anything and that we come from anywhere. In fact, they're told you that you're insignificant. They've told us that we have no existence in this being. We're told all these other things that are just totally not true. And we actually are the only energy that makes this world go round. And all of the stuff that they're taking from us is energy that is good, pure energy. And they're exchanging it back for I call it a turd with sprinkles. That's what I call it. I don't hold back when I talk about it on my open mic. So I'm teaching people the concepts about how to go in and recognize that these things were all intended for you, but your non-assertion of those rights, everything that they do goes on what's called waiver and consent. If you don't opt in, you're waiving out on that right and you're consenting to something lesser. That's what that's about. So, for example, I'm just going to say that there's 2 classifications. There's private civilians that they protect. They protect a private civilian. They will protect those people because they know that they have taken an oath to protect those people. The 14th Amendment people, those are people that are like the serfs in the time that you were talking. They created benefits and privileges. They created Social Security. They created anything, probation, parole, all that stuff. When you get reunification services with your kid, all that stuff. What you're doing is you're going and taking a little piece of what is your entire estate, and you're walking up to a broker, just like you would broker out securities. Or a broker for a loan for a mortgage. You would broker the loan. They go shop it for you. What you're doing is you're going to them and you are presenting this to them. Okay. You're saying, here's what I want. And they're going to the treasury window and creating what you want, because there's no money. There is no money. There's only accounting. So they're turning around to the treasury window, creating the original paperwork that exhibits exactly what is needed for the financial accounting systems in the system itself. And then they manage it for you, which is why they're your daddy. It's a guardian ward relationship. They are your daddy under the state what's called the parens patriae doctrine, parens patriae. So it's actually what's happened is, I'll tell you, this really is interesting because it parallels with something else. It parallels with when you go and you use like your mail. Okay, you have mail. I don't have any. I was looking for a piece of mail around here, but if you use mail, when you're using the zip codes, you're asserting the zip codes into the letter. You're saying, I'm in your United States federal jurisdiction. What they did is they threw like a big net over America. And in every single one of those openings in the net, they put a number. And that is the military zone. That's the military jurisdiction. The other part of that is that you have abbreviations for the state. Well, every state has been given a new corporate name. Colorado State is not the same as State of Colorado. State of Colorado is a corporate entity that is registered and has a DNB number and has a EIN number, and it's a private corporation. The way that they're getting people, and this is the big gig, is they're claiming under Title 26 that you are giving this, you're gifting it under Title 26 as an estate gift, because we don't know who we are. We become wards of the state, and now they're probating our estate. As I said earlier, that the Killers of the Flower Moon is a great exemplary of how this model is done. They went in, and the Osage Indians were very rich because they moved the Osage. They actually took the land of the Osage Indians away from them first, and they moved them to another part that was really bad. It was really rocky and nasty, but it turned out to be full of oil, and they were totally rich. All these people that had moved them out, they brought them back in to be like their butlers and drive them around and stuff. Well, that really pissed them off. That really, really worked them over. They didn't like that. So they, one by one, they figured out a way to murder this family, and it's the Osage Indians. It's the story of the Osage Indians. It's a great story. It's how the alphabet soup of FBI came about. That's how it was created, because they needed something out there to say, oh, look, we got a problem. We're going to create something to do about it. This is about create a solution, and then put out their propaganda how you are necessary, because without you, that wasn't possible. But you were actually the one that created the whole thing, and you just started over and over and over. It's the order of chaos. That's the new world order is. They create the chaos so that they can make the change, because people change during chaos.
Wow. So, I mean, this is pretty mind-blowing stuff, because we talk a lot on this podcast about all these problems that they create so they could create the solution. Look at the COVID jab, hey, you're all going to die if you don't take this jab. Well, turns out chances are the jab's going to kill you, right? Is that an appropriate example of how they create problems and then create solutions that are probably more deadly than the problems itself? Well,
I want you to think about this, because if you're always trying to solve a problem, you can never go and find the solution, right? The real solution. You got a bunch of fires you're trying to put out. You can never get to the real problem. And that's what everything is designed around you. And I want to give you just an example. I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but we are not supposed to be doing the work the way that we're doing the work. What we've done is we've assumed a name, which is a false idol. Okay. We've assumed a name. Now, granted, here I want to give you the example, because this is really needs to be clarified. Mom signed a document that created money. It created numbers accounting. And that document was never claimed by anyone. It always has the right, and it still has the right to be claimed by anyone. But no one really has the knowledge on how to do that, because it was a trust. It was put into trust. And when we gave it away, it was put into a trust that we don't know about. And then we get further in with the Social Security account, because that is called a spendthrift trust, where it locks us away. It's actually protecting us from ourselves, because we don't know enough about it. Well, this is a transition of where from the 1400s to about the middle of the 1600s, they eliminated trusts. They eliminated people in trusts, and because they took over the one trust, the In God We Trust, and they want everybody to be a member, just like a gym. the gym, your Gold's Gym wants everybody to be your member that gym as well. So you go be a member at that gym, and that gives them an advantage. And think about this corporation that is located in the District of Columbia, the 10 square miles of DC, doesn't exceed over or secede into the 50 states except by consent by people that are volunteering to be in those little square zones or those zones that they created. If you have any at any point in time, you can choose to opt out. In fact, if you do, your mail to send someone privately something is only 2 cents. It still exists. There's two parallel systems that run next to each other together. And those systems are used to help you get out of what you've gotten into. So you've used a symbol that was only supposed to be temporary. You didn't create a new symbol that was supposed to take its place. And you fell into a public charitable trust where it's supposed to be, the funds are supposed to be used for roads and bridges and things. And now they're being used for like putting people in prison and incarcerating people, because there's no money, folks. All they're doing is putting people in by contract under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. They're holding them accountable for breach of trust in equity, and people don't know how to get out of that because there is no court. Those courts are private places that they're holding people accountable for debt. And until they decide that they're going to not be wards anymore, you'll get the respect. You will get the respect. You will get the respect. I've got people right now that are in different places along this journey, and it's just because they've become educated in what they're doing. You just learn what's happened, and you can unlearn anything, because no one can tell you who you aren't. They can't tell you who you aren't, and you're the only one that can tell you who you are.
So let me ask you this question. You had mentioned claiming your estate. What does that look like? Could you take us through the process? And then what are the upsides of claiming your estate? What does that exactly entail?
Well, it's who you are, really. Your estate is where you are, who you are. But what's happened is over time, and let me just give you an example. I don't have it right in front of me, but if you look in Anderson's Dictionary, 1889, the definition of estate, state, and status are all the same. If that isn't revealing enough for you, state, estate, and status. So basically, who you were was whether you had an estate or not. So when they pull you over on the side of the road, they're asking you, are you a 14th Amendment debtor, and are you going to produce that debtor proof that you signed up to be part of our bankruptcy, or are you going to show me something else that shows that you're not part of our trust? Because if you're in their trust and you give it to them, then you're consenting by silence that you're not that, or you're consenting to be that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, is it entail money? Because some people believe that claiming your trust, there's this thing called I believe Sescave Trust that is got $100 million something dollars in there, and they think that claiming your trust will also involve that. Could you give very specifics of what it involves, actually?
Yeah, so the Sescave Trust is actually just a beneficiary trust. So remember when I told you mom signed a document or mom approved of something, and the baby came into the world and no one claimed it. Dad didn't go claim the estate because dad's supposed to. Remember, there's an executor of estates. So dad's supposed to go and claim the estate. Dad didn't claim it because dad didn't have one. Dad thought he was here using the way stuff he was supposed to use it too. But when we come here in this world, it's just like showing up on when we show up on the shore and we're like, hey, we're here. You don't have to have anything to be here. In law, you don't have to have anything. In legal terms, you have to have stuff. So to do commerce things, you have to be here. But to be a man or a woman, you don't have to do anything or have anything. There's just things in place because, and, granted, people get upset and think that, you're going to have people that are going to try to snitch on other people for stuff because they don't understand it. The system has got people telling on each other for stuff that is wrong in the first place. In other words, they're telling on people to help keep it wrong, the wrong way. And they don't know enough about it. So again, what I teach is I give knowledge. There is, there's investment as far as one of the things I teach is you can't have any contract at all, any type of deal. Like I couldn't make an agreement with you to even be here unless there was some valuable consideration, right? Like you and I have our own reasons why we want to, I want to help people. I want to get the news out there. I want to get the word out there. You want to get your, you put this on your show and have this out. So we all have reasons for our valuable consideration. Anytime somebody is not giving valuable consideration, there's never like any card in the game. And so I try to keep this to where it's like people can manage it. It's manageable. I work with everybody. I'm telling you that. Like, I want everyone to learn. It's not about, to me, it's never been about the thing that they put all the eggs in the basket and say, you got to have this money thing. The money doesn't exist, folks. It's accounting. And that Sestake trust is just like a temporary thing. Remember, I told you it's temporary. It was created temporarily because your mom and dad never created it. But what happened is, see, if you need something as a baby, you can't get it if you don't have a trust. So it's got to go to the now there's a maxim in equity that says a trust will not fail for a want of trustee, which means that if you send money to somebody and they don't know where it's supposed to go, I promise if it goes to the right company, they're going to find somebody to apply it to, right? Like, that's just the principle. Everybody knows that. That's the same thing. A trust will not fail for want of trustee. In other words, this thing will get to its appropriate destination to get the appropriate thing accomplished that we need to accomplish. And that is the same in all of this. Like this stuff, the way that we're operating right now, because we don't know that we're giving authority with our signature. Every signature is money. Okay. Let me tell you this. I'm going to blow your mind on something else real quick, and then I'll get back to the Sestake trust. Everybody that has a mortgage did not have to walk away from that mortgage table with a debt. I'll say it again. Everybody that has a mortgage did not need to walk away from that mortgage table with a debt. That mortgage was paid when you signed it. But what you didn't know is how or who you were when you did it, because you have an authority that is an ability to like delegate exactly what you wanted to do with these specific accounting. There is no money, and anything you don't preserve, you waive. Remember, waiver and consent. If you don't preserve it, then you waive it. Just like, people talk about, how do I sign my name? Well, I'll give you a couple ways you can sign right now. You want to sign non-assumpsit or all rights reserved. You don't want to put UCC 1-308. You just, like, we're talking about Justinian code, okay? UCC 1-308, the Uniform Commercial Code, okay? So we stay away. I keep people away from statutes, rules, and codes. We don't use that because the same history and stuff exists that existed before this company came along and decided that they wanted to create inequitable things. And when you create inequitable things, you can do it. It's totally legit to do it in commerce because it's a law of merchants. It's pirates at sea. It is booty, taking booty, okay? So it is just like everything is abandoned. Nothing is owned in the United States. They can't own anything. So that's why all this property, what they did is they just made up legal titles to everything. And now they're like, oh, now we control them. And that's when people learn that you can create a trust. They're not going to go away. Like, you're not going to get rid of Rome, but we can create trusts and we can create trust. See, when you hand somebody over an estate and you say, here, take control of this for me, and then you say you're not capable of handling your affairs, then they're really stringent on what they're going to give you. And then suddenly it starts turning into, well, wait, I don't even know anything that's going on. So you gave away the accountability. You didn't learn who you were. You followed and conformed to what they wanted you to be. And you kept using that Sestake trust that we talk about. You kept using that. So again, it's mom created a signature. It's money. Okay. It's money as we know it. It's accounting. Mom created the signature. The signature was then used to create other means of accounting through bonds, which are promises to pay. There is no money, so there's only promises to pay in the future. Your cash in your wallet is a promise to pay in the future. Okay, because you didn't know that you could redeem for lawful money under 12 USC 411. That's a whole different thing because you don't have to be paying taxes either. You can literally just start doing this stuff right now and not have to pay taxes next year. You can get it all back with interest. They will pay you interest because it's a choice. You just got to know what the choice is. You got to know that under 12 USC 411, you're redeeming for lawful money. So mom signs a signature for the birth certificate, creates this accounting. Okay. They don't have anywhere to put it. So they put it in this place called the Sestake Trust, and they give it an all caps name, and it's usable by somebody that looks like that. It's just like a business thing. Let's make a thing up so we don't have to like follow up on all these questions. We're just going to make it just like it goes like this. Well, it was very biased because that's the way that the law of merchants worked. When they're out at sea, it's the law of merchants. Okay. Anything they're doing out at sea is all piracy. It's all, and they have their own little code that they go by, and they're very stringent on the code. If you do something, if you say you will do something, you better do it. If you don't do it, you're going to be held accountable for it. And you're held accountable in equity. That's what they're holding people accountable for. When you can't pay child support, they're holding you for, you went and signed up for a contract that signed up for another contract and then agreed that you would play a role. You would role play in this play. Now you're a role player called a non-custodial parent. That's a label that's made up in a company. If you want to make up your own company and have your own company labels, you could do that. And you could charge for like anybody that wants to participate in that. And that's all they've done. And people are participating by not knowing any better. But once you take control of that, I'll tell you one thing you'll learn from all this is that you will let go of being angry because you got to. There's no choice. We're not victims. Nobody but us did all of this from the beginning, and nobody but us can fix all of this. And as soon as we realize that, it's like, wow, you start to see things change, and then you start to empower yourself, and then you start to really feel empowered, and then you exemplify that in your life, and everything changes. So.
Wow. All right. So money-wise, are we talking about once you have these powers, you could basically have unlimited access to money? That's what some of these people that are, and when I say some of these people, people that are within this movement, there's definitely others we've interviewed in the past, and they claim that you could have unlimited access to money. Money's never going to be a problem once you have this knowledge. What do you say about that?
Well, I'll say that once you have the knowledge, nobody can take the knowledge away from you, right? Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that it is all done because we don't know that we have authority to do some of these things or all of these things that I teach. I mean, I don't teach anything that you don't have the authority to do. In fact, I show you guys exactly where you go to get it. I show you how to, some of these things are really simple. Some people are in these pinches and they're not as detrimental. We think that it's the end of the world. It's not detrimental. Not only that, but I teach a doctrine called equitable subrogation that teaches people that this is really a kicker. So when you do subrogation, you are giving them notice that you're secondarily liable to the primarily liable debtor, which means that you didn't make up the whole debt system. So you're opting out of their agreement like that, the way that it was set up. Well, when you do that in your mortgage, for example, everybody else that didn't subrogate left the money from the previous mortgages on that address on the table. And sometimes there's millions and millions and millions of dollars in those mortgage accounts, those subrogation accounts, because every buyer that continues to go and write their signature doesn't give notice of subrogation, and they waive that right, and the money goes on to the next deal. So that's why these mortgage companies, even if people are in foreclosure, for example, giving notice of subrogation in the equitable process, when you force the accounting of all this stuff, then you're going to force those accounts to be revealed. People don't know a lot of these laws, but say, for example, if you give something to somebody in trust, like some money in trust, and it can't be, that we only deal in gold and silver. We don't deal in this fiat promise to pay money. Okay. But there's unlimited amount of numbers. Yes. But I'll tell you what, the numbers don't become a thing. Once you learn this in your heart and your spirit, then it's like, you don't need anything really. You don't need anything because you know that it's, whatever you need is going to be given to you anyways. And that's the rule we should be living by anyways. There's abundance of everything. They got us thinking lack of everything you look at in the media. The best thing I could tell people is turn off that damn TV. Turn it off and just get rid of it. Cause that television is like, it's the most distortion, the most noise, and everything is just propaganda. It's programming from the beginning to the end. Just trying to get people
fear porn. They want to keep you at this low frequency fear. You got to keep like on that treadmill running. But what you're saying is that once you have this knowledge, you don't have to worry about anything pretty much.
Yeah. Well, once you have this knowledge, you have what's called a trust. And once you have that knowledge and that trust, then you know that you have what you have, where you have it, and you send the proper documentations off. And these people that are put in the place that have been going after you have also been put in the same place of taking care of the same people that changed their status, state or estate. See? So when you change your status, your state, you change your state. That's the same thing when you change your status. What I'm telling you is when you go and give them the perspective of who you really are, where you come from, because you come from a line of people that like what they want you to feel like is you're displaced, you don't have a family, you don't have a history. And I go into a lot deeper stuff because this goes way like every 138 years, there's like a cataclysmic event that can be verified. And the last one was there was no history until 1902, from several years before 1902. I even have a New Times or the New York Times, one of the books, and it shows how there was no photographs up until 1902. Well, that's because they had a cataclysmic event that they don't even talk about. And it's every 138 years. We got another one coming up in 2040. So, and it's just going to be a turn, and it's for like 7 years. And the whole cataclysmic event, the biggest one, is going to be in 2046. And that's why these people are building these concrete bunkers underground right now in Hawaii. You got these people, celebrities and stuff, building these bunkers. But there's a lot more to it. And it's all about estates. These people that know about it have these trusts set up. You look at the Rockefellers, you look at, the Bilderbergs, all these people have places that they're going to go. They have places to go and get away from these events. They have, if you look at these stuff underground, they've gotten us to look up at the ceiling like that we're expecting something from an outer space. And, I talk a lot more in detail about stuff about this too, because one of those events that we did have in those 138 year cycles. And again, that's just temporal viewing. It's like in the federal case that I had, it showed how in 2011, they created another gold heist. Well, 2011 was 630 years. It was a jubilee from the first gold heist, which was on Mount Horeb. Moses and the Israelites going up to the top of Mount Horeb, and they used a Baghdad battery to light a figure on fire with foil on it, and they created a miracle. And meanwhile, all the gold was being taken down at the bottom of the hill. So that was the first gold heist, and you just measure the times between, and then now you can measure when the next historical gold heist will happen. That's why I say, like, we're in a simulation, because this stuff just keeps replaying over and over and over. And we can like gauge the same things that happen. You can gauge how they're going to happen again, and they don't want you to see that. And then the news cycle that comes out, they print new books. 1902, they printed a whole brand new set of books. So all the brand new law books, you won't find anything in good law that's before. Well, you'll find stuff before 1933, but as far as anything else goes, you're not going to find it before 1900.
Wow. So, all right, tell me a little bit about these cataclysmic events. Now, these, elite that are trying to survive it, are they usually successful in surviving it, or does it not play out the way they think it's going to play out?
I can only speculate that they're successful. I'd say yes, if I had to guess, because they've done this long enough to keep it to where now they know when we come back out of this, like, because not everyone dies off. I mean, most people live, actually. Most people will live. But when it happens, it's like, I'm going to say it's really spiritual too, because like they talk about, purge, but it's like a spiritual purge, because I've researched some things where like the young kids before a certain age just like disappear, just poof, they just disappear. And that's where they talk about like they're taken back. They're not like left here because they didn't come in to what was already created. So, but it's like a certain time period. I don't know, like I haven't had time to go and dig any further than that, but they are these events, they call them Return of the Phoenix. And if you need any more proof, go look in Manly P. Hall, Secret Teaching of All Ages. He talks about the phoenix and the return of the phoenix. The eagle that they put on the quarter is the phoenix, folks. And that phoenix is the destruction. It's the rejuvenation and renewal of everything. And what they do is they know that this is they call it the phoenix because it's like a fireball going through the air. And when it goes through the air, it like drops all this red dirt and fire. And it just, you see all these historical sites that are all burnt. That's many of the places that they talk about. Many of those are those places that are burnt. And that's the reason of many of those. We've been underwater different places around the earth have been underwater and not underwater under different times. Biblical events, like you can't even trust the Bible right now. And that's been predicted. They said they were going to be coming forth with many, many versions of biblical scripture. And you're seeing that, and you're seeing all of the different false prophets, and not even people that are trying to help can avoid being accused of being a false prophet and all of this, just because of the way that they set up the system so that, people, really don't trust anyone. And you think of how ironic this really is. I was thinking about this the other day. They take away the trust, and then they want, like, that's the furthest thing we want to do, is to go build a trust after someone just took it all. So people are looking to do things to solve problems. I'm not really good at 11th hour things, but anyone that is looking to get in change and learn the concepts and what's happened, because I've got a really great course that we've created. I've got really good people that I work with, and, we really put a lot into this. I put a lot into this. This is like, I had jobs before and I had hobbies before, and this is like consumes more time than both of those ever have in my life. Sometimes I have to take the time, and I think you know how that goes. So, I do like to help people. That's one of my goals, and one of my things that's always been at the top, to be able to create something that, because I've seen what doesn't work. I know what doesn't work. I know that, you're not supposed to be going into any court hearing. Those are, there's a reason why they say agree with thine adversary quickly, before he will take you before a judge who will throw you in prison, because you're not there. That debt, you can't pay it. You can't pay that debt. There's no way you can pay it. You can only go back into honor by knowing who you are, and you're not going to learn before the next court hearing.
Yeah. Wow. And you a lot of the techniques you teach actually are to keep you out of court, right? Could you talk a little bit about how that would work? I mean, to some people that might not make any sense, because they think court is for conflict resolution, but there's a lot you could do for conflict resolution out of court.
Court actually isn't conflict resolution. Court is actually conflict. There is no resolution unless there is a conflict. So remember that we can't go and seek the resolution. Create a solution, and then you become necessary. So they create a problem, which is, giving someone something, a presumption that they have a right to something that is in their trust. And those people go and make a claim against who they claim someone else that is in their trust. And so when you got two members of the same organization, then the organization has jurisdiction over them. So what I teach people is that it's a matter of knowing where you didn't give the notice that you needed to give, and knowing what you needed to give notice of. You're a private civilian. How did you get classified under military jurisdiction as an enemy of the state? That's a good question, right? So that's what we teach you guys. We teach you like how you maintain that classification, how you're under Title 50 as an enemy of the state, how you fall under Proclamation 2039 and 2040, how like all this stuff that's happening, this employment is handing over your estate to a corporation so they can administer it for you. And I'll give you something else too, because you guys can go research this. I invite you to please do your own research. Don't listen to what I say. Research your own stuff on your own. But I tell you, go and look up the fact that every time you sign an employment application, there's no money. So that employer, what they are owned by the same United States corporation. So you go and sign an application for an employer. Say you want to go work at American Express. American Express has a company that is registered in the state of whatever. And that state of whatever is owned by the District of Columbia. So the District of Columbia owns the state of, and then the state of owns the corporation. And then you go and sign up with the name that they gave you that's a temporary name. And now they own that name and you're using that under their trust rules too. So we become obligated and just get further and further. So I teach people how to give those proper notices, and I teach you where you come from, where you really are coming from, because you had a point in time, a small window that your estate could have been claimed and dad didn't do it. And then you had a window when you were 18 and that wasn't done. And you still have windows that you can go and get, but you got to go and overcome some hurdles first, because it's about coming with clean hands and in honor. I'm just telling you that, right now, and this is the way that I went through it too. I had this idea. I'm going to not ever have to worry about anything. I'm going to go and, go live. I'm going to buy an island, or, I had so many thoughts of what I was going to do. By the time I got done researching who I was so respectful of who I really was that those things, man, those are all like where you come from. The reason you don't have to pay for those things is because of where you come from. But when you get down on that level and you agree to those things, then you are participating in exactly what was told in scripture for people not to participate in. And using that name until you go and correct the name, you got to make some corrections with the name as well. Till you do that, you're still in the belly of the beast. And everybody is doing it and thinking they're doing everything right, the right way. But the right way is to go back with your creator. Your creator gave your mom and dad a name, and it wasn't in all caps because that's a symbol. And it says to watch out for false idols. Don't worship false idols. Well, that's a false idol, and that's a false idol that belongs to a corporation. So instead of becoming a member of God's community, you become a member of a corporate community. So that's what we undo.
Wow. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the Bible. You were mentioning certain things that are said in the Bible, like the comment, I believe you're talking about surety, right? There's a very specific comment in the Bible about sureties. Now, tell me how much of this stuff is biblical and how it shows that this is really a matter of slavery, evil, good, God. I mean, let's create that separation using actual biblical quotes.
Yeah. So first of all, I want you to know that the stuff is in your face. All of it's in your face. If you guys go you can watch the first 2 minutes of Puff the Magic Dragon, and he's literally the dragon. Okay. The dragon. Okay. Remember the dragon, the serpent. Okay. This is the serpent in the Bible. Okay. But he's dressed up real pretty. So it's supposed to be like, hey, it's okay. He's a pretty dragon, right? So the serpent says, don't worry, we can put it right in here. And he holds up the paper, and he's talking about his spirit. He's talking about amalgamating him to the paper, to the birth certificate. And once that's done, that becomes an okay thing. And once we take that and use it, once we sign for that name that's strange, it's a corporate name. Once we sign for it, we become the surety for a stranger. So that's a stranger to us. It's a third party. It's not us. It has nothing to do with us, other than it was a thing that was created in business that was never taken care of in business the proper way.
Patrick, is there anything we didn't discuss that's worth mentioning before we wrap up this podcast? Any way that, people could link up with you, classes, any facts that we didn't discuss that are important for somebody that's beginning to get into this world to understand?
Yeah, so I have a Telegram channel. I don't have the Telegram information right here, but you can go to www.lonewolfpack.net, and our website is there. I've got modules that teach people different aspects of different things, the things that we talked about, everything we talked about here, and then some. I teach people how to, deal with commercial presentments. You get summons in court. You get stuff in court. It's not yours. That stuff is not yours, and you shouldn't be opening it, but you got to give the proper notices before you can stop ignoring the stuff and have it taken care of. You can actually get court orders that order. You'll have an order in your hand that says exactly what you just said, that you're a private civilian, that you're under private civilian due process, and certain other things. As far as just knowing who we are, we're creating this money, but it's not even paid for yet. So that's the next step. There's other steps that we give you along the way, but I'll tell you that one of the most important things that I do teach is teaching people how to secure like their financials, your bank account, how to secure your bank account so nobody can garnish your wages, how to make it so that, you can correct your child. That child support stuff is totally 100% correctable. All those are just contracts you got into. You don't know what to say or how to say it because you don't know who you are. So we say, come and learn with us. We have a great community that, a bunch of people that really just love each other and, want to help and make a difference. I have another one of my admins. I have a few admins that help me out. And, one of my admins, does like tapping for stress, that like, certain places on your body, you can relieve stress and you can just coping skills. A lot of this stuff is just trauma that we're dealing with. And many of the things that we don't necessarily want to do, it's because we've been traumatized by just this whole system. It's been set up to do this. And it's not the first. This is in Roman times. I mean, I can pull, a dozen books that I got back here that all show exactly how they were doing this back in the 1200s, 1100s, 1300s. And, in this Sunday, I'm teaching about, the statute of Mortmain more. We teach about how all of this stuff happened. The church created a whole bunch of stuff that allowed them to just come and stick like staffs in land and say, this is ours. And if you don't like it, when we come back, you're going to be under our rulership if you're here. That's literally how it happened. And, the dates that were given as far as, when America was settled that's all the Pope's version. It's the Pope. Christopher Columbus his name is not Christopher Columbus. It's all distorted when you start looking and digging a little deeper. It was just history that's been created over and over and over. And, we provide you the real stuff.
You're telling me that history has been rewritten, and we really don't know, what has really occurred. Could you tell us some realities that would shock us that you've discovered from your research about the lies they've told us?
Well, I'll tell you that, we come from a lot more wealth than they would like people to know. They don't want people to know that the collateral that they took in 1933 was intended for U.S. citizens, which were enemies of the state. It wasn't intended for private civilians, but yet people volunteered for that. If you learn that, you weren't a part of that group of people, you just became a part of that group of people by not knowing what to assert when you did things. And if you just learn, again, that's why they say, woe unto you lawyers, for you've hidden the knowledge. They'll get up and they're going to pass judgment on other people, but they don't want it done to them. So they're not even telling people, as people, there's got to be, I believe in karma or energy that is positive and negative, however you look at that. But if you're imbalanced, that's going to reflect on everything in your life. And, this is about balance. It's not about, we're never going to control anything. We don't control stuff while we're here. That's what people try to sit here and control things. And we're not in control of anything, folks. We're just here in this avatar to maneuver and manipulate in this world the best that we can. And it's having wisdom that allows us to do it. And knowing that your existence is like 99.9% spiritual and the 0.1% you've bought is BS, is the secret to really knowing that everything is just not what it seems. And you can create your own reality, but they've got you thinking negative, 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 negative. And as long as you're processing that negative, you're always thinking there's no way out. Well, you get what you keep thinking. And collectively, they've got the masses thinking like that, which is part of what I believe this apocalypse was about. This whole apocalypse that, it was like, there's so many different stories about different things. And I did a lot of research about it. And there was other people that were doing research as well. And it's just, some of these things we just have to, I think the best way to tell people is you read the history about it, and you're going to learn that you're going to take your own little humble lesson of wisdom out of it. And each one of those little lessons that humble you more and more as time goes by are going to point you in a direction where that like need and want for money doesn't exist. That need and want for something that is already abundant if you just accept it. So you just got to say, I have abundance of money. And like, I know that what happens is people say that and then they doubt it right away. Or they say, I have this in my life, and then they doubt it. No, I don't have that because of this. And they make up the excuse. If you cannot see the end and not make up the excuse, then you'll get it every time. It's just the way it is.
You're talking about the difference between freedom and mental slavery.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When someone approaches you and tells you to do something, you either know how to stand on your square or you become subordinate to whatever that is. If you don't know what your right is, you become subordinate to it. Mm-hmm. People are applying to get, gun permits. You don't have to have a gun permit. See, what happened was you were a private civilian and you slipped through into the Constitution and you became into the 14th Amendment. And now you got to follow those rules in that. The Constitution, let me give you some information. Constitutor, under Anderson's Law Dictionary, 1889, a constitutor is one who passes a debt. These guys created a bankruptcy and they passed it on to everybody else that would participate in it. But there was still a private side that existed for anyone that wanted to opt out. And that's what we teach you. I just teach you, hey, you guys have another lane over here if you don't like driving head on with drunk drivers.
Amazing stuff, man. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us for the Blood Money podcast. We really appreciate you. You gave your website, right? The website that people could actually, join your classes.
Yeah, I'll give it again. It's www.lonewolfpack, LONEWOLFPACK.net.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for the viewers out there, thank you so much for joining us for this Blood Money podcast. Make sure you go to americahappens.com, insert your email address so you can stay subscribed to our network. As you know, censorship is everywhere. They don't want you hearing this kind of information that we bring to you on the Blood Money podcast. So make sure you join us on americahappens.com, subscribe, and you could say subscribe to our network in case they start to cancel our show. I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money. Thank you.
Thanks, Vem.